Hello and welcome to today's webinar on maximizing efficiency and profitability with OnePlan's professional services automation, led by Jim Patterson. If you enjoy this topic, please explore our YouTube channel for more webinars. Enjoy.
Today's topic is very current and relevant in today's market landscape with the challenges of professional services organizations or professional services arms of organizations. Being able to maximize efficiency and profitability and meet the needs of today's customer is what's paramount, and how to do this in an efficient and profitable manner. So let's get started. So this is the age of the customer, and it is an economy of more project-based, people-centric services businesses than it's ever been before. Less brick and mortar, less hardcore manufacturing that's going on. And many organizations have a very big services component to them. But in this age, the customer is really king. We think about big transitions that we've made over the course of our economy over the last century plus. And the age of manufacturing transformed everything, where we had mass production and assembly lines and made industrial powerhouses successful, increased wealth here in the United States. We had the age of distribution, where we had global connections and transportation systems and the efficiencies around that brought our economy to another level based on the distribution networks and the technology involved around that. And then the overall age of information. Once we started having connected PCs and being able to have distributed work and supply chains and ERP systems and control information flow, we became even more efficient, and that age of information became paramount, where information was power. And now, in this age of the customer, we have empowered buyers. We have more informed buyers than ever before, and they demand a new level of attention and catering to them in order for us to be successful and have us be selected as their providers and as their vendors. So there's been a fundamental power shift from companies to customers, and they hold a significant influence over the way we do business, and due to their really ability to access vast amounts of information. They used to depend on us as providers for information and education. Oftentimes they're coming to us educated now, and they've done their research. And we have to be able to interact with them through various channels based on the way they want us to do business with them. And they have the ability to share their experiences widely, and meaning that they can have their voices heard in others if they like or don't like the way that we serve them. So we have more empowered customers today with an unprecedented amount of information, and they have greater control over their buying journeys and have other expectations of us. Customer centricity, businesses need or have been shifting their focus towards customer-centric strategies, where we are prioritizing customer experience, satisfaction, and loyalty to our brands. The digital transformation has transformed the way we engage with our customers with a variety of things, and that part of the big ways is to find new business models in these digital transformations and find new ways to interact with our customers or have them consume from us. And then there's the transparency and trust. With all this technology and access to information, customers demand transparency and want to understand what's going on and have authenticity and information from us on demand. And then just the overall, as I mentioned, customer feedback and advocacy with social media and online review platforms, they hold some sway. They hold significant sway on what other people think of us as well. And then through all this, for us to succeed in this age of the customer, businesses must be agile and adaptable and be able to respond quickly to changing customer preferences and market trends, which are happening quickly, and competitive pressures. And those crop up every day in this nimble world of cloud computing and cloud offerings that are out there. And in our internal organizations, we're impacted in a variety of different ways. And this is just some of them. The account managers who actually have to interact from a business perspective and sales perspective with our customers. The project managers who actually have to execute and deliver for our customers on these services engagements and services elements that we have for them. The team members and the resources that need to perform on those projects and actually need to do the actual lifting and work of delivering. Not to mention the financial managers that have to deal with, budgets and margins and billing and invoices to the customers. We are all impacted by this in this world of professional services. So the state of the market, if you boil it all down today, The customer experience really overtakes price and product as a key brand differentiator for us. So how we make the customer feel and how they feel about their experience with us determines more about why they select us and why they stay with us rather than the price itself. Productivity. If we're going to look at this today, part of it is that many of the folks out there today have disjointed systems, tools, spreadsheets, whatever it might be, and we're constantly shifting from different tools and different focuses. And it says that studies say that 40% of a worker's productive time is lost when switching tasks. So as they're going to different systems and different tasks and going back and forth, efficiency is lost. And this type of efficiency is estimated to cost the global economy almost over $450 billion per year. And the speed of business, we talked about being agile. Organizations embracing digital transformation and adopt some of these concepts we're going to talk about today, average $100 million more of income than their competitors as we go through this. So being able to respond quickly to the accelerated speed of business is very important in the state of the market. So from a service market, in professional services, the trends and challenges we have, here's just some of them. We now have an economy of project-based, people-centric services businesses, more and more. And so we have to focus on that aspect of delivering. Clients demand greater predictability, accountability, and value through their services spend. They become much more educated and much more discerning, and their expectations are higher than they've ever been. Then there's globalization, centralization, modernization, and streamlining of operations. So there's a lot of things coming into the mix that we have to coalesce and bring together in order to be effective and to be able to be efficient. And we have a diverse workforce across a variety of generations of workers and cultures of workers as we have this more global economy, and we're more distributed. And many of us are working remote now, post-COVID. Now, more than half of the service projects today are now being demanded as fixed fee or fixed time. And there is an increase in agile delivery. So what this means is we have to deliver within a certain cost or a budget in order to be profitable, but we also have to do more agile approaches on this to deliver quickly and be able to respond to change, even maybe mid-course in our projects. And unfortunately, and we see this day to day talking to customers, is that there's often a hodgepodge of point solution spreadsheets and email that are still being used in order to execute on this in not a very synergistic fashion. So these are some of the things and challenges that we're going to talk about today. And then these disparate systems that I talk about create data silos, and this impacts success. So if you think about some of the personas and roles in an organization that have to go in through a professional services process, you've got the project managers who might be in a project management or PPM system and or PSA system. We have redundant work streams, disconnected tools, difficult handoffs between sales and the execution or service delivery folks. We have the resource managers who have their own problems with, they have a lack of visibility potentially across all projects and into the cost of their resources, or even just the capacity planning, the capacity versus demand. You have the team members themselves who get assigned work, and in these disparate systems and tools, they may have work coming at them from a variety of different angles, from different people, different tools on different platforms, and just the collaboration, the social aspects and the time and expense aspect of that needs to come together, let alone executing on the project tasks that they've been assigned themselves. And then there's a finance manager who ends up having to be responsible for the profitability and the dollars aspects of this, as well as being able to invoice clients properly, et cetera. And that finance system could be a whole separate set of books, in many ways disconnected from the ones we've just talked about here prior from the other roles. And then we've got keeping the customer happy. We've got the account managers, the ones that are face-to-face with the customer out there, selling them new business, helping to expand existing business. And they may be working in a CRM system, tracking all the current opportunities and things that we have ongoing. And how do they get visibility and how the rest of this stuff is going? So that's part of the challenge in this disconnected world. What are the impacts of this disconnection? Well, these are just some of them. The barriers here can be low response times to customers, a segregated workforce, confused and unhappy employees, which can lead to lost productivity, and even high turnover. Ultimately, customer dissatisfaction when they feel one arm doesn't know what the other arm is doing. Ineffective ways of working, right? Increased costs and maybe even unprofitable engagements that we might have in our professional services. This is just some of them. But the idea is that these are outgrowths of having disconnection and low maturity in some of these processes. So let's talk about maturity for a second. The SPI research group basically did a professional services maturity benchmark study of a lot of companies. And if you think about maturity levels, and there's a lot of maturity models for different aspects of business, but in this one, they went level 1 through 5, where level 1 is really just like, hey, we just have people that heroically, fight fires and deal with crises and those types of things. And they found that 30% of the businesses were still in that state. Functional excellence might be we're good at delivering, right? Maybe individually within our different spheres or our different functional areas, and level 2 there, but maybe there's not good synergies between those functional areas on a cross-functional effort. Project excellence means that we can deliver on an individual project very well. Maybe we've gotten a little better with our cross-functional synergies. And then there's the portfolio excellence, where we get better at managing an entire portfolio of efforts and initiatives and projects and engagements, such that we have a good visibility into that. And then there's collaborative excellence across all aspects of the business and with the customers themselves. So as you go through and increase in this level of maturity, you see that there's a lower and lower percentage of companies that are assessed to be at that level of maturity. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because the studies found that the top 5%, the ones that are in that collaborative excellence area, level 5, show a 31% profit on their engagements, as opposed to a -2% loss for the bottom 55% that are down in that heroic and functional excellence area. So the idea here is we should strive to be farther up this chain in order to improve our profitability and business performance. So maturity is determined through alignment and focus within and across functions in your organization. Here's just some areas more granularly that how this might impact. If we get better and mature at this, as it's showing through the different columns on the right, in professional services, we're actually putting proposals and bids out. And then when people select us, they become projects. Our projects are really selecting us. The more mature we get, a bid to win ratio goes up. The deal pipeline relative to quarterly bookings forecast, right? That goes up as well. Billable utilization increases to a profitable level. Projects delivered on time, that increases over the maturity. Annual revenue billable per consultant, annual revenue per employee, project margin on an individual project basis, the averages of those go up over time. And then ultimately translating into earnings, or EBITDA, the interest before income taxes, depreciations, and authorizations. The key here is we should have vested interest in striving to get farther up this scale. Now, traditional PSA, professional services automation systems, offer the following capabilities to try and bring these things together into a common hub or a common pane of glass in an interconnected way. So from prospect to payment to profit, meaning you get the sales aspect of tracking and proposing and bidding, right? Then there is the project planning, which may start early, even in that project proposal stage, right? There's resource utilization, what it's going to take from a resource perspective. There's team collaboration so that we can interact with one another. There's time and expenses so that we can charge and bill against these projects and engagements. Then there's the project accounting aspect of that allows us to track the financial performance as well as to do the invoicing. And then there's the business intelligence and the pieces that allow us to report and keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on. Now, where OnePlan adds to the mix, we really add next-gen capabilities to PSA by leveraging OnePlan in this PSA use case. One is we help provide improved visibility within the sales process, meaning the sales folks can possibly have better visibility into how their existing engagements with their customers are currently going on. And conversely, the service delivery folks can maybe have better visibility to what's coming down the pipeline from the CRM folks and the account management folks as we're going on. Because we might have that better synergy, we can strive and execute on a more effective handoffs of the project once we win the contract in the business, so that it's communicated well and possibly even leverage our planning bases as the way to manage that project from delivery. And then we have the ability to support multiple methodologies for project delivery. For many, many years, decades, services were primarily delivered in a waterfallish kind of fashion. And these days, more and more services organizations are being compelled, not just in technology or software projects, but in other types of services projects as well, to deliver in a more agile fashion, or maybe hybrid of agile and waterfall as they go through. And you have to be able to support that in this modern age. And it's also to integrate the use of multiple tools and solutions, meaning some people might be using dedicated agile execution tools or more dedicated waterfall tools, or some other mix of tools out there that are going to feed into a PSA system. And in order to be effective, or the customer may demand you use a certain kind of tool. And the idea is to feed that into your overall portfolio of professional services engagements is important. And then in this rapidly changing world, we often have to adapt and adjust to what comes at us. And having what if scenario modeling to manage these things in a dynamic environment, understand and select the right alternatives, is paramount in what we want to do. And then everybody's heard since November 2022 about nothing but AI. And AI tools to ensure data is complete and accurate, as well as to help us become more efficient and do certain things more quickly and get more comprehensive analysis, is another piece of the mix that we need to add that OnePlan brings to the party. And ultimately predictive analytics and decision support. So what OnePlan does is really connect from the strategy down through the portfolio all the way down to the execution levels. And this particular diagram here, or picture, shows a portfolio at the top of the pyramid here being fed by 3 different execution tools. Now, we will say that during the demonstration day, OnePlan has its own execution tools for both waterfall planning and for agile planning and for hybrid planning. But many folks are already committed to other tools. In this case, we deliver OnePlan for Microsoft Azure, so we do a lot of work with the Microsoft folks. And some in a Microsoft shop, they may be using Project for the web. They might be using the traditional Project Professional on the desktop. They might be using an Azure DevOps, say, for example, for agile planning. These could all be fed in and still be used by their customers and be fed into that portfolio of information that we have in OnePlan. And even non-OnePlan stuff, non-Microsoft stuff like Jira, Smartsheet, and things can be leveraged this way as well. And OnePlan has a specific solution and configuration for professional services automation, so that we can manage professional services projects in the way that people want to run them. Yes, we have a templated approach, but they're highly configurable such that we can manage the work the way you want to manage the work and organize it the way you are organized. So the key here is professional services automation is a great use case for the OnePlan technology and platform. So OnePlan provides integrated PSA. So if you think about it, we talked about your CRM system being the place where kind of the opportunity management and the sales management and account management happens. And 2 of the primary ones that we see out there today are Salesforce and Dynamics, and there's others, but those are the primary ones that we're running into in the marketplace. And your account execs and the people who are business interfacing with the customer will leverage your CRM system, and they'll have opportunities in there that reflect proposals and bids that may become your projects moving forward. Now, OnePlan becomes the PSA solution that once we win the business, or to be quite honest, we use it internally, and we have this same model because we have a professional services arm that deliver our OnePlan solutions. And when our opportunities in CRM become high probability, meaning the customer has indicated verbally or say that they want to go with us, and it's a high probability chance we're going to get that, we actually at that point pass it to OnePlan and the PSA as a high probability opportunity that's going to become a project, so that our service delivery folks can begin to start finalizing the resource allocation and when we can start and all the types of things that help us be successful with the engagement itself. And then on the back end, it has to interact with financials. We execute on the projects, right? Which can be short duration, can be very long duration, but over time, periodically, we have to bill, we have to invoice, and then we have to track the financial performance from an accounting perspective as well. And OnePlan can also then feed that aspect of it from the back end. Now, what does OnePlan add to the mix? Well, there's the idea when we're building proposals to create proposed schedules so that when a customer wants to know what's it going to take and what are you proposing we do, what is the plan should we select you as our vendor. In that case, we can actually, in conjunction with the CRM system, add to the mix resource loaded, cost-based planning and schedules. So here we can build a schedule in OnePlan that would be tied to the opportunity over in the CRM system, and also create those resource estimates that is going to be the basis for what we need from a resource perspective, and also what it's going to cost to the customer and what we're going to propose from a financial perspective to the customer as well. And then there's the resource forecast modeling. When we look at this in the context of an entire portfolio of in-flight projects we already have or potential projects that we think are coming in, what does that mean to us should we win these? Do we have the wherewithal to do this? If we don't, when can we start? How long of a lead time till we do that? What resources might we need to contract or hire in order to fulfill on the incoming demand that we have and be able to look at this from a what-if perspective? And then there's the financial modeling. Same way you can do what-if scenario modeling, but from a cost basis, and understand what those costs are as we're going through, and we can have our budgets either on a periodic basis, in this case it's showing it monthly, or overall for the duration of the project or for an annual budget, for example. And the idea is to be able to look at what the impacts are should we make certain decisions on when and if we do certain projects. And then there's the seamless sales to delivery transition. This same plan that was used to build the proposal can then be used very effectively as the basis for managing the engagement based upon what the customer bought off on. And the idea is that we can then use this to manage in a consistent way from the beginning of the sales process all the way through the execution in one continuum all the way through the process. Now, we talked about connecting to other scheduling tools. Yes, OnePlan has its own scheduling tool, its own backlog and sprint planning agile tool. And the idea here, though, is should you need to accommodate Project for the Web, Microsoft Planner, Smartsheet, Project Professional on a waterfall basis, say, for example, we have connectors for this and more that you can actually leverage as the basis and use that as the source for the data that rolls into your portfolio. We also mentioned the fact that people are doing more agile delivery these days. And if that's the case, agile accelerates the value of delivery, but the thing is we have to be able to model that and then maybe even use a hybrid model that has both waterfall and agile in it in the same project. The idea here is that OnePlan has the ability to do more agile planning in here as well, whether it's done right in OnePlan itself, or as you build your backlogs and your sprints, or you can connect to more agile oriented tools like Azure DevOps or Jira and use that as the source for where you're going to go and what rolls into the portfolio for performance. And then Insights AI. OnePlan does have the ability for each user, regardless of their role, to give them insights of what requires their attention, what might be falling off track or out of bed, give them direct access to the plans that they have direct access to, and even conversation threads around the things that they're involved in. And the key is we also have now Sophia GPT, which is our own AI assistant that is purpose-built for project and portfolio management, and specifically PSA in this case. And it's AI-driven collaboration, and it's based on Microsoft's Azure OpenAI, which has got more compliance and security and protections around it than, say, the ChatGPT OpenAI that's out there in the open internet. And it really provides intuitive interaction in the context of professional services automation. It, on top of what it already knows from OpenAI, it also has been taught about professional services automation, project management, portfolio management, OnePlan, and will actually consume data that's in your views within OnePlan to formulate its responses to the prompts that you give it in this assistant. And the idea here is to make us more effective, more efficient, and to give us insights that we might not have had with our own human perception. When I talk about these integrations, we're not talking about building custom code for each of these and have to support that and the pitfalls that are there with custom code. The idea here is that we have productized connectors for all these different genres of tools, whether they be agile tools for software development, financials, project and work management tools, ideation tools, CRM professional services tools, service management tools, strategic tools, etc. These are connectors that can be leveraged in OnePlan's own OneConnect platform for OnePlan. And if we take that another step further, OnePlan in its simplest case is designed to be used in your browser or on your mobile device. But users sometimes are doing work in a platform. And we do a lot of work with the Microsoft platform and Microsoft 365, and people are doing things increasingly in Power Apps. We can surface and use the OnePlan capabilities I'm going to show you today right within Power Apps. We have a fused UI strategy. We are an authorized Microsoft Teams application, and you can use OnePlan right within Teams, should that be your preference. Azure DevOps, if you're using Azure DevOps and you have software development services projects that you're doing, while your people are in Azure DevOps, they can actually leverage the OnePlan capabilities while they're in Azure DevOps without leaving. The same holds true while they're in Dynamics. The same thing holds true in SharePoint. And for a non-Microsoft use case, we can do the same thing, say, in Jira. So the idea here is to be able to stay working in the tools of the primary interface you're in every day. And if you don't need to do all this, your favorite browser is just fine. So let's talk about OnePlan being the bridge to next-gen PSA. And we'll talk about this in terms of people that out there use Salesforce, which is the most dominant CRM system that's out there in the marketplace today. In Salesforce, you manage your customers/accounts in there, right? And in those customers' accounts, you're going to have your salespeople finding opportunities to pursue and go through sales cycles with. But OnePlan is going to provide the additional capabilities you're going to need throughout this process to build a portfolio of projects from all those opportunities that become plans. There's the resource capacity plans that have to happen. There's the financial planning that has to happen around that. There's the waterfall and agile estimates that have to happen as well. There's a my work and a timesheet area for your team members to provide feedback into the process. And as I had mentioned, the Insights AI to make sure that our team members stay on track and are cognizant of the things that need to be on their radar. And think about OnePlan as being the bridge between that CRM aspect on the front end of the process and then transitioning into the execution or engagement aspect and stage of that process all the way through, and it's connected in a seamless fashion. Now, if we go through this in a flow, we create opportunities in the CRM or Salesforce system. We could then, in that opportunity, as we're building a proposal, we can actually leverage the OnePlan tools to build a proposed schedule and or resource estimate in there. So that resource capacity and scenario modeling and how that fits in and what the requirements are on that is all done within the OnePlan capabilities. And then as we go and those wins become engagements, we then have to hand that off to service delivery to execute on those things. And then when they do that, the quotes and timelines that we prepared ahead of time can serve as the basis for what we're going to manage to without reinventing the wheel once it gets to service delivery. And then as we're executing, our team members on the projects can actually fill out timesheets for actuals to be billed against the project, and also status reports so that we can provide this as a natural output of the process without having to build the manual. Not to mention other types of reporting that might be available at the portfolio level, at the account level, at the individual project level, et cetera, that are available through those dashboards that are available here as well. Now, the cool part here is that while this is all being executed on in a PSA solution like OnePlan, our connector to Salesforce can send back the relevant data that you'd like to go back, the data points that you'd like to feed back to your account managers and your account executives in CRM, so that when they talk to their customer, they have their finger on the pulse of where their existing projects or efforts are at. And so when they go in and start talking about new business, they can be fully cognizant of how the current business that we have with them is already going at any given point in time, because they're living in CRM. They're not living in a project or management or PSA tool. And then ultimately the data that's captured, whether it be time reporting data, whether it be progress data, et cetera, that then can be passed to your financial system and wherever you're doing your invoicing from. Same thing holds true with Dynamics, right? Opportunities, Dynamics CRM, quotes and timelines that you can do right there from within CRM, where resource capacity and scenario modeling with OnePlan, and then moving on to it becomes an engagement, right? Quotes and timelines for execution that can be then used as the basis for managing and tracking the project, the timesheets and the status reports as we talked about before, the reporting around all that, and then feeding that relevant status data from how that project is going back to Dynamic CRM so that your account managers and account execs can be cognizant of that as they're discussing other things and other deals with your customers. And then ultimately integrating that with your financial system. So once again, there's a lot of latitude on what you do on the CRM side and what you do on the financial side. In the middle, though, OnePlan can provide the rest of that. So with that, let me go into a bit of a demonstration. So on the CRM side, let's just start with one example here of Salesforce. And in Salesforce, you have accounts and opportunities, et cetera. But if I go through and I look at a particular account, maybe I'm responsible for the Contoso engineering account. And here in CRM, I may have existing opportunities that we're pursuing. I may have other aspects and projects that are either completed or in flight right now as we're going through that particular aspect of that. And as I go through, I could even drill in while I'm in Salesforce and look at high-level information that's coming back from the PSA system on how these things are doing. Like, for example, what aspects are on track? What percentage are we complete? When do we anticipate to finish? How's the budget versus cost going right now, et cetera? What about the work effort and those types of things that are feeding back? And that can all be dynamically fed back from your PSA or OnePlan system. Now, ultimately what we're doing is we're operating and we're executing a portfolio of projects that are in here. And if I go look into OnePlan right now, and I'm looking at it right now in just a browser, I'm in Google Chrome right now, but your favorite browser is fine. We have the concept of what we call plan types. In this particular case, we're managing 4 plan types within our accounts. And this plan type structure can be structured any way that you do it in your business, but this is a common way that we see it, and we have some templates that get you started very quickly. But ultimately, we've got projects, we've got opportunities that are potential projects that are coming in from CRM, and we may even have some operational work streams that we're working on for particular customers, as well as maybe support agreements and other support efforts that we have in there. So those are some of the typical things that we see. And as you notice here in the portfolio that I'm looking at here in a flat list, I have a bunch of different operational project opportunity things that we're working on, right? Now, that being the case, we can have different views of this, that each project has its different KPIs or metrics. We might be tracking things like dollars, et cetera, how financially we're doing, how our progress is doing on percent complete, for example, and those types of things. But I could also look at this and say, what's the overall health of the account? And I can come in here and quickly come in here and look at how we're doing on different accounts. So for example, in Contoso and the Contoso engineering account, we can see a few things. I can see I have an opportunity that's about to become a project that looks to be a renewal of some type. I've got a support contract that I'm managing here and the effort within that. I've got a project called Contoso Engineering number 2, and I've got 2 other projects that are going on as well, including Contoso support customers using mobile devices. And as I go in there, I can look at the plans that are within that, right? So the idea here is I can have as many different list views as I want of the efforts that are going on, and we'll go into some details here in a little bit. But I also, if I'm a more agile-oriented type of customer, I can actually come in here and look at board views from a portfolio perspective and look at things like, here I'm looking at my accounts by overall health and which are on track. It's telling me which accounts might be at risk. And it looks like Fabricam and Litware are at risk. And I could actually come in and at any given point in time, go in and look at the details around that and drill in and see what the data points are that I might need to be concerned about on that particular board item here in these accounts. But I can look at this with the columns and the swim lanes and coloring in a variety of ways. And let's just say I wanted to go in here and look at the board, say by the state. And in this case, I was going to say if I have any backlog items, but here I've got proposed items, and I have an active one for the Blue Yonder Airlines client. I've got proposed and active projects for Contoso Engineering, as we talked about, et cetera, for our different accounts, and look at them in those fashions. We can also look at, maybe overall health by plan type. And we talked about that plan type hierarchy. And let's go in and say, okay, well, let's look at the projects and the opportunities we have and say which of these are on track by which client and which customer. Maybe look at which ones are off track and see which clients or customers those are. So we can look at these in very flexible ways. And then there's the roadmap views. In this case, I've got a roadmap that's got swim lanes by account. And those accounts now have the different projects and things within them. We can see when they're looking to deliver, how much progress has been made on those. And I can actually look at this at any given point in time and drill into the details around this, even from the roadmap. So this is a dynamic roadmap, not one static that's built just to report on things periodically, as often happens in many organizations today. Now, if I go back to the list view of this portfolio, and by the way, those views of the portfolio are all the same data, it's just having different graphical perspectives of those types of things. If I go into Contoso Engineering again, and let's just say I want to drill into the Contoso support customers using mobile project. As I drill into that, there's different aspects that we can manage. Now I got a details page that's configurable that you can decide, what your life cycle phases are to the process that you manage to on these plan types. Each plan type can have its own methodology. We have the data and metadata we want to capture around this, things like how it's being managed, is it time and materials, what timesheet charging practices are we going to have, et cetera. Who's the customer manager and sponsor, other ways that we might categorize these things. And then current status on the updates of how we're doing on these projects. For example, when it's currently slated to end, what's our physical progress percent complete wise, how we're doing on the budget, and what our projected margin is and margin variance is, how we're doing on effort consumption within the resources, et cetera. And even the various KPIs that are here that can be either manually set or formula driven. So once again, tracking all the details around this project at any given point in time. Now, if I go into the work plan, this is the work plan that I said we could get started on this even in the proposal stage in a PSA use case scenario. And if I go into here, much like we have plan types at the portfolio level, we have what we call work types within OnePlan that allows us to do different types of planning. So for example, this schedule work type that I'm in right now is really got a schedule here for us to manage and track to. And I can look at this in a list view like this. I could interject a Gantt chart representation at any given point in time into the mix and view it in that particular way. And I can have different views that maybe have different aspects, maybe a more financial oriented view, maybe one for more planning view, maybe one for more data entry. And we can even flag certain elements. So for example, if it's milestone billing and we want to know when that's complete, that we should be passing that over for invoices, or is this an item that should be tracked for financials, et cetera. And the idea here is that you can track these in any variety of ways that you would like. Now, one of the nice things here is that we have the ability to template things. So if you have certain methodologies that you use on certain projects that you might do within that, we have the ability to, let me save the changes in here. Now, I already have a plan in here, but I'm going to go through the process here just so that you can see. We have the ability to store organization-wide templates in here that allow us to take a look at, things that we want to promote as standards within the organization. People can have their own personal templates. There may be online templates that you may want to give people access to. And you can even import things like Excel or CSV files in here as existing templates into there. And the cool part here is with the advent of AI, we could actually come in here and actually ask it to help us create a schedule. So depending on what we're going to do here, let me just say, given what we've got here, I'm just going to ask it a question real quick and say, create WBS for providing mobile support for a customer, which is the subject matter of this particular project. And it may come back with its own initial version of that. In this case, it's a fairly simple work breakdown structure, but it will allow us to keep that, and we could actually make that the basis for starting our plan or creating a template to get started with other plans as we go through there, help us map the resources and leverage that right within OnePlan itself. So kind of cool, one use case of AI in here to help us plan and schedule in areas that we might not be familiar with. And then there's the overall resource, and then if I go through this work plan, you'll notice here that there's also a backlog work type that should you want to plan out a backlog hierarchy, you could plan it in here and actually plan sprints in here as well, so that you can plan your backlogs, et cetera, is on there. And I'll probably go in and look at one that has more data filled into it as we go through the demonstration. Overall, there's a resource plan where we can plan in terms of hours or FTEs, right? And look at this in perspective. But within this particular project, I can do planning in here and understand whereby, for example, I have solution consultant needs here where I've got tasks assigned to a solution consultant, but I haven't put a name to it yet. So for example, I might want to use this to see what's going to be required. And let's say I have hours there, but I could also look at it and toggle it into terms of FTEs that are rolled up from those elements. But let's just say I got to put a name to this, or I have an overloaded resource that I need to give some relief to. I can actually come in here and I could say either find a best match, or if I could actually do it specifically by role like a solution consultant, and find potential alternatives that have bandwidth in this time frame, which looks like Toby Stevens, Sophia King, or Jack Barker could all be selected and replace that generic resource up above to fulfill on that as we go through. So the idea is we have the ability to balance on that and make those decisions right here within OnePlan itself. Now, ultimately, after we're done with that, the costs associated with those resources can actually drive the labor portion of our financial plan. But then we can have non-labor categories in here that we may want to track in here as well. And the actuals of these things can come in from our financial system if we want. We can even start tracking what we've invoiced, but you can have as many different what we call cost types and cost categories here as you would like. And even do comparisons, for example, of what we estimated, say, for example, what's actual. In this particular case, it looks like we started spending money a month earlier than we thought. So we didn't have a budget or an estimate for January, but it looks like we've incurred some costs on labor here in the month of January. So once again, the ability to capture all this in one pane of glass. And then, ultimately, all the data that we see in here, and generally it's the net data that we pass back to CRM as far as the key elements that you'd like to track back to the CRM system like I showed you in Salesforce. Ultimately, from a resource management perspective, all this individual project resource plan data does summarize and roll back into an overall global resource plan. And this global resource plan is sitting here in this particular case for this organization. And I can see here, for example, if I go to, say, Ehrlich Bachman here, and I can see how many different projects and the tasks he's on within those individual projects, I can see in here that he is overloaded, right? And if Ehrlich's overloaded, I might want to deal with that, right? Or find some replacements for him. I can also see that Gavin Belson is overloaded. And I could, in particular, go in here from this global view and say, in this time frame, I've got to give him some relief. And maybe that relief would come from maybe trying to find an alternative for him on this Northwest Traders project. So if I came in here, say, and I went to go look at a candidates list for that and say, let's just try to find a best match this time. I can come in here and see in this time frame, it looks like me, Daniel Williams here, is the really only viable alternative I have other than the generic project manager bandwidth that's available to me in here. So the idea is I could do that same replacement up there and give Gavin some relief off of that project with a suitable resource as we go through there. So once again, global views into the resources. And I would say this, with us having full-time visibility to things like this, as I look this same, for example, in FTEs, I would likely not double book Gavin purposely if I could see this before I gave him yet another piece of work. Now, yes, things shift over time, work slips and that type of things, and causes over allocations that we need to deal with. But the idea is we can minimize the peaks and valleys here on resource utilization with that type of visibility overall. Okay. Now, ultimately, we have team members that need to come in here and work, and they get assigned the work. And me, Daniel Williams here, as this fictional person, I have some insights that are coming to me on things that require my attention, on timesheets and overdue tasks and things that I need to approve and things. I have recent conversations on tasks and resources and plans that I'm involved in that I can stay abreast of and actually go in and view the entire thread or view this item in more detail. I also have easy access to the projects and the plans that I am a member of or a participant in without having to navigate through an entire portfolio of projects to get to the things that are important to me. And I can even come in here and I can even create, if I have the rights to, I can create maybe new opportunities or operational projects or support or new project plans if I have the sufficient permissions to do so in the right role to do that. So once again, handy for the team member. The other part that's handy for the team member on your projects is that they have one place to go called My Work. And in this My Work area, I can see that I'm assigned right now actively to 3 different projects, and I've got tasks, issues, backlog items that have been assigned to me in these. And it gives me one place to go to do a few things. I could simply click a box and say completed. I could update percent complete. I could communicate back some alternative dates that this might be done. I could start one of those conversation threads that I talked about right now on this particular task, and the people that are involved in this task and have interest in that task would have that available to be able to see within that comment thread. And to be quite honest, I could even create my own punch list or activities of things that I needed to get done, and in more Kanban style fashion, drag those across and be able to see, what to-do items I have to get done in order to fulfill on this task. And once again, I could look at these things by different things. I'm looking at them by plan, but I could look at them by priority or by type or whatever it might be. So it makes it easier for me to work with this in the context of this particular plan. We also have board views in here so that I can actually work with this in Kanban board style and move these things through their different completion stages if that's the easy way or the method I'm used to working with these. And of course, we do have a timesheet capability that allows us to go in here and actually report time against the elements that we're assigned to. It can be set up so that you get automatically populated in your timesheet for the period of what it's there. And then you can come in and actually fill in time in each of these and even put notes of explanation into each charge day if you want, as you're justifying these professional services elements. So if the customer may want to say, what would we spend that time on? We can put notes of explanation in a very granular fashion. And you can even, with permissions, if you want to enable this, allow people to select other projects and then add tasks from those particular projects into their timesheet as well. And there's full approval process for project and functional managers all the way through this. If I go back to our portfolio and we look at, say, a dashboard, we talked about reporting around all this, right? And we have all kinds of PSA reports in here. And if I want to go in and look at, say, an account dashboard, you can get a finger on the pulse of how we're doing on all the different reports with some Power BI reporting that we have a report packed natively in here that has some 40 some odd variations of reports. And the idea is that you can slice this by different slices or filters that you might have available. It might be, focused on things like effort by accounts and how we're doing on a resource perspective, how the health is of our overall account summary with the KPIs around those, maybe your financials by different accounts, et cetera. And we can even go down to different, individual plans and look at the dashboard for a particular project plan as we go through, et cetera, or a particular resource plan, et cetera. So the idea is that we have a robust set of reporting, and you're not limited to what's here because you can modify these or add additional ones to the mix because we have a native OData feed that feeds these Power BI reports for you at any given point in time. Now, I will say, we mentioned the fused UI strategy. And one thing that we can do here is that we can actually access OnePlan from within Teams. So for example, I could come into OnePlan and it can be added to the overall left rail navigation here in there. And I'm part of a bunch of different OnePlan teams, but let's just say this PSA use case that I was involved in, I just want to access it right here from within Teams. Since it is an authorized Microsoft Teams application, I can access those capabilities right from within here, just like I did before. So the views that I just saw in the browser are the same views that I'm going to work with in here as well. We can also, if I want to put OnePlan in the context of a specific team or a specific channel, I could do that as well. So if you notice here, I go into a particular team here and notice that OnePlan is now a tab that's available to me in this particular project. In this case, I can either just have it bring up project-specific information, or I could come in here and work with it just like you see here, right? And be able to work with a portfolio of projects, et cetera, right within Teams. And one of the cool things here, if I look at, interaction with other tool sets, I showed you the links to other tool sets, but let's, for example, say I was looking at more of an agile project and my customer, we were using Azure DevOps. And notice I have an icon here that says this is connected to Azure DevOps as well as Teams, okay? I could go into, say, a work plan for that particular project, and I can see the backlog here. And this backlog here is there. I may have a sprint plan in here that shows point and hours estimates, and I can see which things are which part of which sprints as I go through this. But I could have built that right here in OnePlan, but in this particular case, it is actively connected to an Azure DevOps instance. And if you can see here, as I open this, it's going to take me to the particular area in Azure DevOps that this epic, that those backlog items are part of. And as you can see, it's synchronizing the child items in here from there and letting us work within Azure DevOps, as well as being able to access OnePlan right from within here. So for example, I could go in and right while I'm in Azure DevOps, I could actually access the portfolio management capability, the resource capacity planning capability right here from within Azure DevOps without ever having to leave. Right, so the idea here is that we have a lot of flexibility on how we consume OnePlan as we go through all this. I would say this, as we go through here and we want to look at, different portfolio items, everywhere in OnePlan, Sophia, our AI assistant, is available to you here in the lower right corner. So even though I'm here in Azure DevOps, I can still go in here, and I've got some prompt examples that are already here, but you can ask it your own questions, right? And could you examine the trends and provide a summary of the current state of my portfolio, okay? Or rank plans by highest risk of failure and explain. So I could come in and ask it a prompt. At any given point in time, not only is it basing its answers on what it knows in general from Azure OpenAI, but it's actually leveraging the live data that you see here as part of the context for its answers. It's not learning or storing any of that information, it's just leveraging it in the context of this particular response to your prompt. So as we're going through here, we'll see what it comes up with. So it basically says the market research project is is off track and at risk, and the project is only 49% completion and faces challenge in managing its deadlines and its cost, and the brand management program and the SEO optimization, and gives the rationale as to why. So it's giving us some analysis here as we go through this. So all available to us in a variety of ways. And we could even leverage this in OnePlan in a what if modeling scenario. So as we talked about modeling, we have the ability to create models and scenarios whereby we can evaluate alternatives that don't impact your production data until you're ready to make those things. So we can create models and scenarios and say, based on this model, what resources would it take to do this? And it would say, based upon this, I have a lot of red and yellow in here still, right? The financials might not have enough dollars to do all this. Yeah, there's a lot of red in that area, right? As I go through this, I might want to go look at this and say, what if I had a scenario that said I only had $10 million to work with in a particular scenario? I could come in here and actually select and deselect projects or move things out in their timeline, drag and drop on the Gantt chart, and basically come with one that's basically down to $10 million, but I can only do 17 of the projects. And as I look at that, maybe against another alternative, like a $15 million project, I can assess budget versus benefits in there and understand what that is. And there's more detailed stuff that we can do with this, but just be aware that that scenario modeling combined with the AI Sophia GPT capabilities can give us a lot of analysis and alternative modeling through that. I'll go back to wrap up here and with a summary and next steps. So the summary conceptually is that implementing a PSA solution is one of the most impactful decisions your services organization will make. That most organizations adopting PSA have seen dramatic improvements in efficiency, collaboration, and quality. It also frees up management, finance, and operations from the mundane task of mashing up this data into focusing on running the business and doing more high-value activities instead of just reacting all the time. And OnePlan adds next-gen capabilities to enhance the traditional PSA discipline or types of tools that you might be using. It provides accurate and timely information because it's critical for regulatory reporting and operational performance improvement. And real-time visibility can mean the difference between low and high profitability, so we can react and make adjustments as we need to save the day. And the ability to anticipate and respond to changing conditions can both make you and save you a lot of money. Now, the value add capabilities for next-gen PSA, we improve synergy with the sales process, very much so. We have adaptive project management with multiple methodologies and tools, agile, waterfall, different execution tools and frameworks. We integrate the use of those multiple tools and solutions as needed if you want to, optionally. We provide a more effective and seamless handoff from sales to service delivery, and the portfolio scenario modeling evaluation helps us adjust to frequently changing conditions, right? And the fact that we have AI and we have easy access to the updates from the team members makes sure and insists that we ensures that we have more complete and accurate data as we go through and be able to do our analysis and trending accordingly. We do this as our core business. We're not just a general software systems house. We do project and portfolio management solutions, including PSA. And Microsoft has recognized us as their global PPM Partner of the Year, either as the winner or as the finalist for 5 consecutive years. We are also recognized in these disciplines by Gartner, by Infotech Research, and other software review houses. Now, we do webinars like this all the time. We also have a whole library of on-demand webinars that you can check out at your leisure at oneplan.ai/webinars. Now, we do have templates available. You can go to oneplan.ai/solutions, and we do have a professional services automation template that you can try for free. You don't need our help, but I tell you, we're happy to chaperone you if you'd like to engage us so you can get the most value out of it. We can ask you your questions, point you in the right direction, etc. You can also find those templates up on Microsoft's AppSource at appsource.com. So definitely take advantage of the free trial and engage with us. You'll get a lot more value out of that trial. We can do a little roadmap workshop or discovery discussion with you on what it would take to get you into a tool like this. And I gave you a very quick high-level demo, and if that's too quick and you want a personalized one-on-one demo for your own use cases, etc., I'm happy to provide that for you, or one of our people are happy to provide that for you as well. Just reach out at contact@oneplan.ai, or if you're just ready to do a little more research, drill in and look around our website at www.oneplan.ai. We really hope to engage with you. Hope you got value out of the content today. OnePlan is that single hub, that single pane of glass. We call it the power of one. So thank you again, and have a great day.